Hello, this is Evan, and we're going to be looking at how to use the marital balance sheet. This is the balance sheet we use in a divorce case when we're trying to determine the total value of all the marital property and how much of this value each spouse is getting upon division. This is a bit more complex than the normal spreadsheet, so it's important that you pay attention, and I'm going to talk to you about what we need to begin. As usual, you need to make sure you have the proper documents. If you don't have a document to back up a number that you're putting into this spreadsheet, then it's considered a guess, and judges don't like guesses. So make sure you have a document for every number that you're going to use in this sheet. I've laid out some classifications of property as well as the suggested documents you should have. So make sure you have these before you begin. Now let's look at a sheet that I've filled out as an example. If you look here, you can see in column A that we have the various types of property laid out. We'll begin with real property. We have 123 Main Street, which is the marital home. As we move left to right and move into column B, we're going to enter the gross value. We have an appraisal from last year that shows that this house appraised for $150,000, so I'm putting that in. We also have a mortgage statement from last month that tells us the total amount owed on the mortgage is $125,000. The spreadsheet's going to automatically calculate the net value, which is the gross minus the debt. Also in the division columns, in column G and H, we're going to set out what percentage each party is going to get. So in this case, we've given 100% of this property to the petitioner. Now, a note on these percentages, you'll only change the percentage in column G for the petitioner. So if you're trying to give 100% to the respondent, you'll simply put 0 in line 5. I can show you how to do that. Let's hand this over to the respondent. We just put 0, and we're going to end up with 100% on the respondent side. Okay? Now, some property, it makes sense to divide 50-50 or 80-20 or 70-30. This is the kind of property such as cash, maybe retirements, or property that can be divided out in percentages. Property like cars, household items such as televisions, furniture, tables, and such, it doesn't make any sense to divide it 50-50, because if you're going to cut it in half, you're probably going to make the value 0. Imagine if you split your car in half, it doesn't work, it's not going to be worth anything. So items that can't be divided cleanly need to be awarded either to one side or the other, and we'll account for the difference later, you'll see. But it's basic. You go down and fill out all of the assets in the same fashion. We have the same columns for each. Now when you get down here to these two sections, one that's a household property and one that's liabilities and debts, you'll see that we have these dark green lines that say additional, like additional household and additional debt. There are 2 additional tabs here at the bottom, so if you need more lines, we go to household property here on tab 2. You can see we have more rows here to enter additional property, as well as in tab 3 for debts. These sheets are summarized and put in line 49 or line 60 respectively. Okay? Now, something that's different about liabilities and debts, we're going to relist any debts that are associated with the assets above. For example, the mortgage. I've put 123 mortgage here at $125,000, but we're not going to count this debt twice because it's secured and we've already calculated the value based on subtracting it from the gross value. But we're going to relist it, but we're going to put an X here in column C. So if you have a secured debt, you put an X, and that keeps the calculator from counting it twice. Now let me show you the bottom here, because this is really where we get to the information that we're getting out of this spreadsheet. We're going to have a summary here that shows you, for example, the combined value of all property in the marital estate. You can see here it's $203,000. Also the combined secured debts. And from those numbers we can determine the equity, or the net value of the estate, what's left over to be distributed. And the summary is also showing you, based on the divisions that we've placed in the columns above, we can see how much each side is getting. For example, petitioner is getting $37,500 and respondent $39,300. And also we can see how we're dividing the debt between the two. and it shows you the net balance at the bottom as well as the net each party's getting. You can see we don't have a perfectly even split. Now that the law in Oklahoma doesn't require that the judge divide everything evenly, 50-50 is usually the goal. And you can see here on rows 73 and 74 that the calculator is going to tell you how much each side would have to get in order to make this split a clean 50-50. For example, here the respondent would have to pay to the petitioner $911 in order to make this a clean 50-50 split. But this is the marital balance sheet. It's a very handy tool, I think, to sort of play around with your values and look at how your estate could be divided up. Once you get those principles down, it's fairly straightforward, and you should enjoy using it. So anyway, happy calculating, and as usual, if you have any questions, let me know.